The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink it and criminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokecats. Welcome to the show. It is Thursday, October 16th, 2013, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for supporting us at 420radio.org. Make sure you log on today and become a VIP member for as little as $9.99 a month. You can help to support 420 Radio and keep it free for the people who can't afford to help pay for all this information and entertainment. Thanks for being here, and on today's show, we've got plenty of information for the cannabis community to bring to you. We've got at half past, we are joined in our activist agenda segment by Melinda Henderson. She is a woman in Texas who is fighting for marijuana legalization. We'll talk to her about that new poll that came out showing 58% support for legalization in the Lone Star State. Also, for our Radical Rant today, we're going to take a look at the ridiculously high costs of opening a medical marijuana dispensary or recreational marijuana shop in the couple of states that allow that. You certainly got to have some big money behind you if you want to get in the pot selling business on the legal side anyway. Also, got a story on the crack of marijuana. I know. They are calling dabs now the crack of marijuana as the phenomenon of butane hash oil is spreading across the country, and media outlets are in a frenzy here to try to demonize it and to separate it from what it actually is, just cannabis in a concentrated form. We've also got your 420 radio news, all sorts of headlines today, including a medical marijuana story in North Dakota. We've also got some information there in the news about California voting on legalization, and new rules for the recreational pot industry have been approved just north of us in Washington State. It's also Irie Wednesday for our daily Toker Tunes. Gordon Green will be calling in. We've got kind of a poetry slam for today's Irie Wednesday tune from Linton Kwesi Johnson, so stay tuned for that. And then in hour two, Toker Talk Radio, we've got a stupid prohibition story to tell you. Also, a couple of other stories in the news we're going to go into detail on about asset forfeiture, a stupid comparison by the House GOP with regard to pot smokers and national monuments. All sorts of stuff coming up. Stick around. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Cannabis Outreach Collective is an alternative health and wellness option located in Gladstone, Oregon, that serves patients in the Portland area and beyond. We are a full-service alternative health and wellness collective accommodating patients with natural, organic, holistic, and homeopathic remedies, nutritional guidance, advice, education, and medical cannabis, fully in accordance with Oregon OMMP law. You can find out more about Cannabis Outreach Collective on Facebook at COC503 or by emailing cannabisoutreachcollective503@gmail.com or by telephone at 503-853-1319. Check out our menu on Weed Maps and visit Cannabis Outreach Collective today. When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The Law Office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activist to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today.
This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, October 16th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Medical pot case likely to head to North Dakota Supreme Court from GrandForksHerald.com. A case involving a North Dakota couple who say they should not be prosecuted for having medical marijuana is likely headed to the state Supreme Court, their lawyers said Tuesday. Defense attorneys Mark Fries and Charles Sheely say their clients had authorization from Washington state to use marijuana to treat their medical conditions. In one case, Fries said, quote, his medical marijuana authorization allowed him to possess far more than what he possessed here, end quote. Fries and Sheely said their clients plan next week to enter conditional guilty pleas for possession of marijuana and tampering with physical evidence, but deny intent to distribute. Fries said there's, quote, absolutely no evidence, end quote, such as cash, cell phone records, or ledgers that shows the defendants were going to sell the pot. Panel approves rules for Washington pot industry from ABC News. Washington became the second U.S. state to adopt rules for the recreational sale of marijuana this Wednesday. Sales are expected to begin by the middle of next year. Colorado and Washington's rules are largely similar, although Colorado will allow stores to sell both recreational and medical marijuana. Both states will require measures such as seed-to-store tracking, background checks for license applicants, and child-resistant packaging. Under the rules, the board will issue licenses for up to 334 marijuana stores across the state, with 21 of them in Seattle, a figure some have questioned as too low, considering the city estimates about 200 medical marijuana dispensaries are operating there. The rules limit the number of licenses that anyone can hold to 3. They also prohibit out-of-state investment in pot businesses. Packages must carry warnings about the potential dangers of pot use. And Washington's legal marijuana law includes zoning requirements, keeping the businesses away from schools, parks, and playgrounds. California voters could get a chance to decide an open-source marijuana legalization initiative from rawstory.com. A ballot measure that could grant full marijuana legalization in California has been filed, and the language for the initiative was prepared online using a shared document. Supporters of the Marijuana Control, Legalization, and Revenue Act of 2014 have asked the state initiative coordinator to give them permission to circulate a petition, and if they gather enough signatures, voters will have a chance to decide the measure next November. The one-page initial draft was presented, but since then it's gone through hundreds of revisions and grown to 35 pages. If it's approved, the initiative would grant Californians the freedom to use, grow, transport, and sell cannabis subject to reasonable regulation and taxation in a manner similar to alcohol. Cities would also be prohibited from banning medical marijuana dispensaries or severely restricting their numbers. Michigan marijuana grower gives up farm to cops, from CBS Detroit. A southeastern Michigan farmer who dodged a prison sentence for growing 8,000 marijuana plants is losing his house and 23-acre farm. An attorney for Ed and Linda Schmeiding, ages 62 and 63, said the couple is not fighting a forfeiture claim by a Michigan State Police drug unit. A trial over the property had been scheduled for Tuesday in Adrian, but attorney James Daly said it would have been difficult to win. Schmeiding began growing marijuana in 2010. Officials said the plants were in various stages of growth, from seedlings to mature plants ready for harvest. Agent Lloyd Hopkins said Linda Schmeiding told police they were paid $500 a week for marijuana, and some pot was sold as medical marijuana. Medford, Oregon bans medical marijuana dispensaries from KVAL.com. The Southern Oregon city will not allow medical marijuana dispensaries to do business in the city limits despite a new state law permitting its sale through pot shops. The action followed the city council's expansion last month of an ordinance banning licenses to businesses that violate state or federal law. State Representative Peter Buckley, an Ashland Democrat, said he hopes cities will hold off on imposing their own restrictions on dispensaries, saying, quote, "A wild card thrown into this is that the legislature also passed a bill to regulate genetically modified crops. It regulates all products of seeds at the state level. We're asking council to see whether that law would preclude a city or county from regulating medical marijuana." End quote. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, October 16th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines and take a look at the high cost of opening a medical marijuana dispensary. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back. Tokers and Tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting. You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up.
Bong, bong, bong.
What's happening, cool cats? This is Big Daddy, and I want you to cruise on over to the Funky Roller Rink. We'll be grooving all night long.
I like it.
Doors open at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, every Thursday night.
Funky, delicious.
Welcome back, everybody. 15 after the hour, and time for us to go behind the headlines and take a look at the high cost of opening a marijuana dispensary. The Boston Globe recently reported that they had 181 applicants for the Commonwealth's 35 potential medical marijuana dispensaries. A lot of competition going on there. And there can be no more than 5 dispensaries in any one of the 7 counties in Massachusetts. So of those applications, only 22 of them were rejected, and one guy withdrew his application. So out of the remaining 158 applications, they needed to be able to show liquid assets in excess of $500,000. They had to be able to prove in your application that you were sitting on at least $500,000 worth of liquid assets just to be able to be in the running for opening a dispensary. So out of those 158 that could prove they had $500,000 in the bank, they now get to submit a $30,000 non-refundable application fee. And only, of course, like I said, 35 of them will be accepted. So there's something like 123 that are going to turn in $30,000 and just lose it. That's going to bring in $4.7 million to the state of Massachusetts. And Massachusetts isn't the only one that's raking in the bucks trying to license the new dispensary operations. In Arizona, they got to prove they have $150,000 in startup capital, and then there's a $5,000 non-refundable application fee. So far in Arizona, there's 126 dispensary operators who applied, so that's $630,000 to the state of Arizona. Nevada finally got around to passing a dispensary law. They require proof of $250,000 in liquid assets before you can apply. And if you got the $250,000 in the bank, you then drop another $5,000 in a non-refundable application fee. And then if you're approved through the application fee, it costs you $30,000 a year for your license. I'm sorry, $30,000 a year for the first license. I think it's $20,000 every year after that. And by law, there can be up to 60 dispensaries in Nevada, so that's another $2.1 million for the state. As we look through the 20 medical marijuana states, there are 15 of them that have or will have operating dispensaries. And many of them have these same non-refundable application fees on top of their annual licensing fees. Washington, D.C., $5,000 to apply, $10,000 for the license. New Jersey, $2,000 to apply, $20,000 for the license. Vermont, $2,500 to apply, $30,000 for the license. And if you thought this was just going to be applied to the sellers of the marijuana, no, they've also got some fees for growers, or as they're called in some states, producers of marijuana. In Colorado, a cultivator has to pay a $1,200 application fee and $2,750 for the annual license. In Nevada, it's going to cost you $3,000 to be a producer. In New Mexico, it costs you $1,000 to apply and $30,000 for your license. And in Connecticut, $25,000 fee just to apply to be a grower and $75,000 a year to maintain that license. So, with these massive upfront costs, it's no wonder that dispensary marijuana ends up costing the same or more than black market marijuana. When I was down in Arizona, I remember talking to the patients there, telling me it was $60-$70 a gram for oil. It was, $20-$30 a gram for medicine, eighths that were, or ounces that were costing, $500. Right next door to California. It just makes no sense. And this kind of over fees, over scheduling, too much being involved here in the fees and the taxes is going to bite these regulators in the ass as marijuana becomes more and more available. And I wonder if they set it up as a way of ensuring that the black market does survive at some level. You got to wonder. And if you thought that, well, these dispensary fees is too much, I'll just grow my own. Well, you don't get that. In those 15 states that are going to have dispensaries running through next year, half of them, 8, don't give you the option of growing your own marijuana at home. That would be Arizona, Connecticut, D.C., Delaware, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and New Jersey. No home grow allowed. Well, Arizona allows home grow if you're 25 miles or further away from a dispensary. That only applies to 4.8% of the population. Pretty much only Tuba City, Arizona, about the only place that you can grow. And Massachusetts only allows home grows on a case-by-case hardship basis. Sounds like a racket, Brian.
Yeah, well, I've always, maintained the thought that they need to keep marijuana illegal so they can keep a certain amount of money out, of sight.
Yeah, gotta have that black ops money.
Yep.
All right, well, we'll rant about that someday in the future, I'm sure. Maybe we'll talk about that in hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. And if you're a big fan of our Irie Wednesday, it's coming up next. We got some Irie Wednesday music, and then Brian the Red's got a whole hour of it on Red A's Reggae Flashback, 8 p.m. Pacific, live tonight.
Smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go. Tokers, there's no good reason to get your dog stoned. While it might not harm them physically, imagine being a dog who already begs for treats all day, and then imagine that dog having the munchies. Not cool.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Irie Wednesday, featuring reggae, ska, and other world music genres. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, folks, welcome to Irie Wednesday here, waiting for our call from Gordon Green. I'll see if I can pull him up separately. I don't think I've got his number, though, unfortunately. He was going to be calling in today for a tune, actually poetry, I understand, poetry with a beat from Linton Kwesi Johnson. I've never heard of him. The tune is called 5 Nights of Bleeding. Do you have any info on this, Brian?
Well, I've played some, we refer to him as LKJ, Linton Kwesi Johnson, on the Red Eyes Reggae Flashback before in one of the earlier shows. But yeah, he does a spoken word poetry to music, and it's, a lot of it's just real soulful with a message, usually about the movement or about the struggle that, people are going through that don't have the resources that the big man does. So
understood. All right. So we will see what we can do. And I apologize for not being able to get Gordon on the line here. He said he'd be calling in today, but unfortunately it doesn't look like we're getting the call. So we'll move on here to LKJ, as the hip kids call him, with 5 Nights of Bleeding.
Madness, madness, madness tight on the heads of the rebels. The bitterness erupts like a hot blast. Road glass, ritual of blood on the burning, served by a cruel and fighting. 5 nights of horror on the bleeding. Road glass, gold blades as sharp as the eyes of a hate and the stabbings. It's war amongst the rebels. Madness, madness, war. Night number 1 was in Brixton. Soprano B sound system was a beating out a rhythm with a fire. Coming down his reggae wire. It was a sound shaking down your spinal column. A bad music tearing up your flesh. And the rebels them start a fighting. The youth them just burn higher. It's war amongst the rebels. Madness, madness, war. Night number 2 down at Shepherd's, right up Railton Road. It was a night named Friday when everyone was high on brew or drew. A pound or or two worth of Cali. Sound coming down, never kings, music iron. The rhythm just bubbling and backfiring, raging and rising. When suddenly the music cut, steel blade drinking blood in darkness. It's war amongst the rebels, madness, madness, war. Night number 3, over the river, right outside the rainbow. Inside James Brown was screaming soul. Outside the rebels were freezing cold. Babylonian tyrants descended, pounced on the brothers who were bold. So with the flick of the wrist, a jab and a stab, the song of blades was sounded. The pile of oppression was vomited, and 2 policemen wounded. Righteous, righteous war. Night number 4 at a blues dance, a blues dance. 2 rooms packed and the pressure pushing up. Hot, hot heads. Ritual of blood in a blues dance. Broke glass, splintering fire. Axes, blades, brain blasts. Rebellion rushing down the wrong road. Storm blowing down the wrong tree. And Leroy Please near death on the 4th night. In a blues dance on a black rebellious night. It's war amongst the rebels. Madness, madness, war. Night number 5 at the Telegraph. Vengeance walk through the doors. So slow, so smooth, so tight and ripe and smash. Broke glass, a bottle finds a head and the shell of the fire hurt cracks. The victim feels fear, finds hands, pulls knife, finds throat. Oh, the stabbings and the bleeding and the blood. It's war amongst the rebels. Madness, madness, war.
What makes something funny? How does humor impact health and psychological well-being? How can you incorporate humor into everyday life? A concise, reader-friendly introduction to an important but often underappreciated topic in modern psychology, Humor 101 explains the role of comedy, jokes, and wit in the sciences and discusses why they are so important to understand. Psychology professor Dr. Mitch Earlywine draws from his personal experiences in stand-up comedy to focus on how humor can regulate emotion, reduce anxiety, and diffuse tense situations, expose pretensions, build personal relationships, and much more. He irreverently debunks the pseudoscience on the topic of humor and leaves readers not only funnier, but better informed. It's part of the Psych 101 series from Springer Publishing, Humor 101 by Dr. Mitch Earlywine, Ph.D. 420radio.org presents Marijuana Compassion and Common Sense with registered nurse Lanny Swerdlow every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, with replays Wednesday at 7 a.m., Thursday at midnight, and Sundays at 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on 420radio.org.
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
Welcome back, everybody, for our activist agenda. Today, we are going to do another segment of Listen to Your Mother, and our guest today is Melinda Henderson. But following up on my previous previous segment. It seems we were having some difficulties with Skype again, so we'll dial out to her, see if we can get the connection that we were expecting. Melinda is just a woman in Texas who is fighting for marijuana legalization. I don't have much more information than that, and it looks as though we are not going to be getting the answer on the line either. So we will take us a little break, and when we come back, I will figure out what exactly we are going to do with the rest of the segment. We're doing it live right here at 420radio.org. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You cut people, you smoke trees till you get what you need now. Designer drugs with minted smokes to get through the day. You always get them so high.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit.
Hey, little dude, send your mama and daddy out of the room. I gotta get you up on this. You know who I am. Snake, dealing in weed, coke, crack, your choice. Take one hit and you'll do anything to cop more. Steal from your mama, lie, cheat on your homeboys. But hey, that's the price you pay when you deal with dudes like me. Now, some folks will tell you that I'm dealing in poison. But hey, do I look like the kind of guy that would do that to a kid like you? Yes!
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times Magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook rolls all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
Legalize it. Don't criticize.
Overjoyed. I've been cannabis activist for 40 years.
We're turning the corner on a failed policy that's been disastrous for our communities, and things are going to get better.
80 years ago, we repealed alcohol prohibition in this state. We did it prior to the federal government, and we're doing the same thing when it comes to marijuana. We are a step ahead, and we will continue to lead the way. It means I'm going to smoke a lot of weed tonight. Woo!
Some call it marijuana.
You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Some of them call it ganja. Never mind.
You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth.
And have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
As the phenomenon of butane hash oil is spreading across the country, the media is starting to report on it, and they're going a little crazy on this, as they usually do. So it's time to debunk a little reefer madness. It's a subject I've visited before. In fact, no article I've ever written has generated as much controversy as one that I wrote called The Danger of Dabs. It appeared in Kush magazine, I believe in December of 2011. It got reprinted in High Times in May 2012. Still available on my website as well, at radicalruss.com. I think it's called The Concern Over Concentrates on that site. The thesis of it was basically, and this is a quote from it, "The danger of dabs isn't so much physical as it is a public relations nightmare," end quote. And the theme that has developed from just a couple of news reports that I took a look at reveals how the media are framing BHO as the latest dangerous drug endangering our teenagers. ABC 15 in Phoenix ran a story that ran on a Monday that was entitled, "Dabbing, the New Drug Choice for Teens?" Now, they gave a brief explanation of what butane hash oil is without ever mentioning that it is essentially marijuana. The bulk of the story features Shane Watson, a rehab counselor, of course, and recovering addict, who explains how awful his life became because of BHO. Yes, he couldn't handle it. Didn't work for him. Had a bad reaction, so it's therefore bad for everyone. The story that went on, this was on the Phoenix News, warned parents what to look for if their child is making dab. Right? They're using dab now as if it's a separate drug, as if it's a separate thing instead of a verb to dab, right? Anyway, the story warns about how to tell if the kid is making dab without ever mentioning that marijuana is needed to make it. Right? The entire construction of the article and the news report was basically to separate hash oil from marijuana, to make those separate concepts in the listener's mind, and to paint dab as some sort of different drug entirely. This was on a Monday. By Tuesday, ABC 2 in Baltimore, ABC 7 in Denver, and ABC 5 in Cleveland re-aired that story. By Wednesday, ABC 23 in Bakersfield and ABC 10 in San Diego rerun the story. The dab aired all over the country on ABC affiliates. Anyone that needed a big sensational filler story ran the footage. By Thursday, the ABC 15 story made the leap into the internet media as a screen grab for another story that was on the Tosin patch entitled, "Dabbing, Dangerous New Drug Seized in Maryland." This story features the subtitle, and you gotta love this one, "This is the Crack of Marijuana." This is the crack of marijuana, one official quoted a user as saying of the concentrated butane hash oil. The official, named Sergeant Mike Connor of the Maryland State Police, goes on to say, quote, "It's so potent, it is dangerous. People claim you can't overdose on marijuana. In fact, you can. It's so strong, they are passing out." Okay. All right. So this whole crack of marijuana quote then gained traction when it was reprinted in the Baltimore News Journal on Saturday. And then by the following Monday, remember the first Monday is when the first story came out. And then a week later, there was a story in the Fredericksburg patch that was called "The Best, Worst Marijuana in the World is Spreading Like Weeds." And it referred to the crack of marijuana quote. You know, he quoted that Sergeant Connor from Maryland State Police. Followed that quote with a lead that read, A powerful concentrated form of marijuana is quickly gaining popularity along the East Coast. But unlike typical marijuana, it may carry the risk of overdose. All right, so for reference on the whole overdose part, the story cites California Normal's Dale Geringer, who wrote an article in O'Shaughnessy's, and by the way, O'Shaughnessy's is the Journal for Medical Cannabis, wrote an article in O'Shaughnessy's, and the quote in it was, increased use of BHO has led to an increase in hospitalizations for cannabis overdose. That's coming from California Normal. And, well, to be fair, I can testify to the fact that I have seen people pass out at various events from dabs, and I've seen them get wheeled away on stretchers. And I don't ever see that happen with flower. Never seen anyone pass out from smoking flower. I've never seen anyone go out on a stretcher from smoking flower. And I got my own personal experience. I took a glob from a friend in Los Angeles that was so big that I ended up puking my guts out all over the streets of Los Angeles, literally laying in a gutter, just puking. It was awful. But here's the problem. A term like overdose is misunderstood by the public. When people think overdose, they think OD, and they think death. But the truth is that lots of people have experienced an overdose. The lady at work who can't get to sleep because she's drank too much coffee that day, right? We got the guy who's got the throbbing headache from a hangover. You know, passing out is a big deal. We got to worry about that, but that can happen from drinking. And nobody's calling Jack Daniels the crack of beer. You know, an overdose just means too much of it. And when you can't sleep from too much coffee, you overdosed on caffeine. When you got a headache from the hangover, you overdosed on alcohol. Overdose doesn't always mean death. So yes, if you take too big of a dab and it leaves you puking in the streets, you took too much. You overdosed. But that has nothing to do with what this framing is in the media, trying to say that unlike marijuana, it's got the risk of overdose, as if you could die from it. And we know that's not going to happen. In fact, this whole metaphor, the crack of marijuana, the whole crack of metaphor doesn't work anyway. Because crack and cocaine are the same drug, and they have the same addicted potential. That Reagan era, one hit and you'll be addicted, was as much of a myth as the whole crack babies myth. It was all about stereotyping. It was all about the demeaning of the people who tended to take crack, who tended to be poor and black, as compared to the white folks on Wall Street that were doing the powder cocaine, who had just as much chance for addiction. But they don't have the same devastation because they've got resources, money, and the complexion of protection. Now, this dab phenomenon, it's not going away. And as it sweeps eastward, more of these local news affiliates are going to report stories of exploding motel rooms and apartments from the latest ignorant BHO maker. I mean, there have already been stories out of Fresno and San Diego that made the news the same week as all of those crack of marijuana stories were making it. So please don't help their cause by being one of those ignoramuses. You don't blast butane hash oil indoors or places with no ventilation. And take this seriously, folks. The public relations of this is the dangerous part here. There's nothing quite like a moral panic to set back years of progressive momentum. Just ask anyone who worked on marijuana decrim in the 1970s. Even the most live and let live minded neighbor who wouldn't mind you smoking pot next door or maybe having a closet grow isn't really going to abide potential explosions. Even the woodstockiest parents and grandparents are going to have a hard time identifying with blowtorches and passed out teenagers. So we've got to make a strong effort here to educate the public that, just like there was profit-seeking bootleggers blowing up the occasional still to make concentrated alcohol under Prohibition, We're going to have profit-seeking hash makers operating unsafely until we remove the prohibition, until the activity's regulated, and until the profit margins are so low that it's not worth the effort or the risk. And we've got to make sure that the public understands that BHO is just concentrated marijuana. Don't let media promulgate this misunderstanding or this framing that dabs is somehow some new, dangerous, different drug when it's not. It's just concentrated marijuana. The danger is not from the dabs itself. It's from the framing and moral panic it could lead to. All right. So there you go. We'll talk a little bit more about that in hour 2 as well. But at this point, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'll have a surprise for you. Because it'll be a surprise to me as well. Stick around. Thanks for sticking with us as we're doing it live on the Russ Belville Show.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Cast your rise up to the skies. What is it to live and die? Calculated stars in life.
Are you or is someone you know a marijuana smoker? Have you or is someone in your family been arrested for a marijuana violation? You need to know the truth about pot. NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, is the most comprehensive source of information regarding marijuana and its effects on health, as well as legal issues. NORML even offers a database of lawyers specializing in cannabis in your area. NORML, the nation's largest and most successful marijuana law reform organization, has spent decades gathering the knowledge and science on everything related to cannabis. NORML is the best resource to find out the truth about marijuana, connect with a lawyer in your area, or help find an end to prohibition. Information is available at norml.org, that's NORML.org, or toll free at 888-67-NORML.
We've got some great shows in our 5 p.m. Pacific primetime lineup here at 420radio.org, but if you missed them on the weekdays, you can catch them on the weekends, starting Saturday at 10 a.m., and Sunday very early at 4 a.m. Pacific time, beginning with Stony Sundays with Coral Reefer, followed by Weed Nerd with Subcool, Free Weed with Danny Danko, Jorge Cervantes TV, and ending up with the Jody Emery Show every weekend in our repeat blocks right here on 420radio.org.
808. I got that good vibration.
Like Denver, Colorado, and Seattle, Washington. I was actually in Seattle the night of the election when marijuana became legal there, and then the next day was on a plane to Denver, and marijuana was legal there. It was just an amazing time to know that you could fly to 2 states in America, and weed would be legal when you got on the plane, and weed's legal when you get off the plane. Woo! But we still got a lot of work to do. One of the things that makes this kind of a difficult fight, unlike the fight for, say, civil rights in, the black community, Latino community, the gay community, is that a lot of our community's underground. Oh, yeah. A lot of our community can't come up to the surface. I like to call us the iceberg of marijuana. Most people outside of our, realm only see the very tip of the iceberg. Hippies and dreadlocks and piercings and stuff. The artists, the musicians, the people who either have nothing to lose or are self-sufficient enough that they can go ahead and express themselves without worrying about losing a job. But below that waterline are the teachers and the plumbers and the librarians and the police officers who smoke marijuana and want it legal, but are afraid to be out here and be open about it because they fear for their job or their security clearance or their kids or their property or whatever it might be. So first of all, give yourselves a hand for celebrating this because you're open and honest. Coming out and showing that we're decent, law-abiding, except for maybe one law, but law-abiding citizens that pay taxes, go to work, raise their kids, and so forth. And the other thing I like to point out is sometimes when you're a marijuana activist, there's kind of this attitude from some people like, oh, legalizing pot. Oh, yeah, you just want to get high. Yeah, that's how cute. Why don't you work on something important? You know, like curing cancer or ending crime and poverty, solving the energy crisis. And that's when I say,
yeah, right.
I am. That's exactly what I'm doing. Marijuana, THC, has been shown in petri dishes since 1974 to kill cancer cells. Every diesel engine on this planet can run on hemp seed oil with no conversion whatsoever. Hemp plants take in carbon dioxide that's heating up this planet. Hemp seed is the most biologically nutritious food you can give to a human being. I am working on those problems, and so are you.
Yeah! Spread it!
The other thing about this is I always like to point out that this is a civil rights battle.
Yeah.
And it's very hard. It's very hard to point out any other issue that affects the Bill of Rights, all 10 of your basic rights under the Constitution, more than the drug war. Let's tick them off, shall we?
Yes, we
Number
shall.
1, First Amendment. Freedom of speech, we're doing that. Freedom of assembly, we're doing that. But in Washington, Colorado, they're talking about restricting the freedom of speech of the businesses that sell marijuana as with regard to their advertising. I haven't seen Budweiser or Viagra been restricted in their advertising. But marijuana has to go under special rules. First Amendment, freedom of religion. Unless you're a Rastafarian, because your sacrament's too popular. Freedom of the press. How many different outlets that have tried to tell the truth about marijuana? High Times, the Daily Doobie. The government tried to put them behind the counter like porno. Because, God forbid, the kids see a pot plant. They might think it's natural. How about our Second Amendment? The right to bear arms. Unless you're growing pot or possess pot, because they're not allowed to have firearms, because they're drug addicts. In my home state of Oregon, we had to fight all the way to the Supreme Court to allow medical marijuana patients to merely have a concealed weapons permit. Not even the weapon necessarily, just the permit. They were trying to shut that down because of federal law that says you can't give firearms to drug addicts. Medical marijuana patients, people. Your Third Amendment right is the right to not have soldiers quartered in your home during wartime, except under law or under peacetime for any reason. Okay, so they haven't violated that one. But they can put a GPS device on your car in your private driveway if they suspect you of being a marijuana grower with no warrant and without telling you. So that seems to me a little worse than putting a soldier in my home. That's somebody tracking my everyday movement. Fourth Amendment right against search and seizure. What do you think a drug test is but search and seizure?
Yeah.
How about the people who are patted down on a stop and frisk in New York, who lose their Fourth Amendment rights day after day after day for the mere smell of marijuana? Fifth Amendment, your right against self-incrimination. Well, what's a drug test? But you incriminating yourself that you committed the crime of using marijuana. Sixth Amendment right to a speedy trial. Roger Christie, an activist from Hawaii, is in jail now for going on 4 years with no bail because he ran a pot church. Like he was some big kingpin dealer. He ran a pot church. 4 years without a trial so far. In a holding cell. They won't give him bail. The Seventh Amendment is your right in civil suits. If someone does you wrong, you can sue them. How do you sue your dealer when he shorts your bag? You can't, because it's an illegal market. In a legal market, if someone shorts my bag, I can call Weights and Measures to come in there and bust them or revoke their license. Eighth Amendment right is the right against cruel and unusual punishment. Richard Floor, Montana medical marijuana patient, arrested for running a dispensary, was not given the medication he needed, died in a prison cell. Jonathan Magby, Washington, D.C. medical marijuana patient, was not given the medicine he needed to survive, died in a prison cell. What is more cruel and unusual punishment than putting someone in a cage over a plant the Founding Fathers grew?
Thank you.
Your Ninth Amendment right. Your Ninth Amendment right is one that a lot of people don't know. It's one that says the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights is not meant to disparage or deny the rights otherwise held by the people. Let me translate from 18th century. What they were saying is, just because we wrote down a bunch of shit, that doesn't mean that's all your rights. We can't write them all down. The right to breathe air, the right to have sex, the right to eat a delicious meal. They couldn't write it all down. And I think if we're a country founded by hemp farmers, how could there not be a natural right to farm hemp? How could a bunch of guys running an agrarian economy built on agriculture, farming hemp, requiring hemp as payment for taxes, how could they possibly imagine that anyone would deny that? They didn't write it down because it was absurd. That would be like denying people the right to drink ale. It would have been just as absurd to them. And finally, the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment is the states' rights. The rights that are not eliminated in the Constitution are reserved for the states or to the people. 20 states now have said we're going to allow medical use of cannabis. 2 states now have said we'll allow adult use of cannabis. And finally, our Senate, our government has heard us and has said we're going to allow this to go on. But it hasn't gone far enough. All 10 of these rights are under attack as long as marijuana is illegal. Medical doesn't go far enough. Decrim doesn't go far enough. Until a joint is no more big a deal than a can of beer, we are not truly free.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
That was my speech from the Boston Freedom Rally. Michael Malta, King of Pot, next to me, standing there. It was great to have him there. And we were someone in the chat room mentioned Mike Can having the raw video from that. That's a very, very good point. I just sent him an email, and hopefully we can get that raw video of him standing right next to me. It's one of my favorite speeches of all time, just because of the nature of it. The fact that it was after they had shut down the rally, and we had to do it all without microphones or electricity or bullhorns or anything. It felt like a good old-fashioned stump speech right there in Boston Common, where the founders probably did the same damn thing. Stood up there among the people. It was a wonderful thing. Never forget you, King of Pot. All right, we got to go here for hour 1, but stay tuned for hour 2, live at 4 p.m. Pacific and replayed at 7 p.m. Pacific. Got more stuff to talk about, including the stupid prohibition story. Got more of those coming up. Also, the shutdown has led a GOP representative to disparage pot smokers, and we'll talk about the violence and profit of prohibition. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you